I was learning so much, and I was so passionate for it.
Right.
I love to see kids get better.
And you got to share it with somebody.
I love it, and I want to bring it home. And I'm gonna be honest with you. At one point, I was about ready to give up on it. It's not what I can do for myself, it's what you can do for others. We want every kid to get something out of the camp in 3 days. And I always tell them this, that, hey, you want to be the best, learn from the best.
Eric Johnson here at Colonel Stadium on the campus of William Fleming High School. I'm with Coach Mark Harrison, assistant coach with the Colonels, but he's excited to bring back something that's been in the area for just over a decade now, the fastest 40 speed and strength camp here in the summer for the local youth. First off, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just tell me a little bit about the camp, what your goal is each and every year.
Well, our goal is for every kid to understand the safety part of football. The bottom line is we want our kids to be in correct position. The reason why we do helmets and shoulder pads is because we want them to learn how to move. You know, I used to do it without shoulder pads, without any kind of equipment, and then I did it with full gear and helmets and shoulder pads. Well, it worked out better with the shoulder pads and helmet, because what happens is, on my end is what I've seen is when I used to work it with just no pads at all, you would teach a kid something, and then when you put the pads on, you'd have to reteach everything. So I just said, well, hey, you know what, they play in shoulder pads and helmets, and the camps that I worked before I started my own thing, bringing it back home, is the camps that were successful were the helmets and shoulder pads.
Yeah.
So I just sort of put things a little bit into my spin and sort of just brought it home. The first thing we want is self-esteem. We want them to build self-esteem. The second thing we want to do is be able to learn how to get in position correctly. We've got a new way of teaching. Well, it's not new anymore, but we've got a way of teaching the tackling drill where we don't, the head is not, we don't bring the head's not involved at all.
Wow.
So that helps out a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, with that being taught, and really we only teach maybe 2 or 3 things. We do it in 3 days. We used to do it 5 days. It was too much. Used to do it 4, but we cut it back to 3. You know, there's camps where you know, you can go out there and you can throw football. You could run routes, throw, cover, you know, 7-on-7 type stuff.
Sure.
Do all kinds of agility drills, and that's all good. But what we try to do is we try to put the helmet and shoulder pads on and teach safety and teach them how to gain leverage. We do stuff that we can't do during the season. When you get to the season, man, things speed up like crazy.
Super fast, right?
Yes,
They can't do quite as much, right?
So with the camp, what we do, we've had nothing but success. Because it's like I tell everybody else, if we didn't have success with this, we wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be doing it still.
Right.
You know, why waste your time? So we have seen a lot of success. I have kids coming in this program, and it's really good for beginners, but it's good for everybody. Because what happens is, you know, you ever heard that thing, heard the saying, you got to crawl before you walk, walk
absolutely.
before you run. Well, that's sort of what our camp's like. It's like I told the kids yesterday. The bottom line is, you are not, you know, I was telling them, this is not a camp where you're going to put helmet shoulder pads and come out here and hit all day. That's some of you might not even hit at all, but we'll go very close. And we evaluate each kid, where some will go a little bit harder than others, a little faster than others, but you know, so it's really based on an individual type thing, even though we're in groups. So we want every kid to get something out of the camp in 3 days, and you can't sit there and do a lot of stuff in 3 days because they're not going to, you know, they're not going to pick up on it. So I picked 3 or 4 things that are very important, which is what we're doing this year is what you got to do before you get to the tackle. You know, what kind of stance you need to get into.
Nice.
Then what you do once you get to the tackle. So we break it down in that, you know, with angles. So, you know, it's learning how to be a knee bender, not a waist bender. That's really big.
I was going to say, I love the fact that you it's open to all types of football players.
Yes.
But this in particular, as you mentioned, the skill guys, they can come out, they can get a lot too.
Yes.
But it's a lot of love from my big guys up front, right?
Yes,
On both
yes,
of the lines.
yeah.
So can you speak to just how important it is for them to get some of those fundamental aspects so that when they do show up in the fall at a high school or I imagine that they're in the middle school as well, they're ready just like those skill guys? Because I feel like sometimes they can feel like, oh man, I'm a little bit behind the skill guys, you know, but this says, hey, come on in and get up to speed with those guys, so to speak.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because that is a very good question, because this is the bottom line. If you cannot get into a stance correctly, and you can't come out here and work 2 hours on a stance, but there's ways that we can that I've developed to where I've coached ways to where we can develop a good looking stance. So first of all, we get in a good stance. The kids got to get in a good stance before we go on, before we progress to the next level. So, because if a kid's not in a good stance, well, he can't move. He's already at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
It's like I tell the kids at the TF40, if the kids that get hurt are the ones that are not coachable, meaning you're not listening, and you're not in the correct form, you're not in the correct position. The ones that are out of position are the ones that get hurt. So basically, we start them off with a stance, and the big boys, you know, we teach that leverage. We teach them not to get knocked. It's little things that we teach.
Yeah.
Like I said, that you can't teach during the season. Now, I will tell you this. This is how it all started. I started traveling, and I was going to like North Carolina. I was going all over. I was working with the football camp, OD, offensive defense. Actually, I was there for years.
Wow.
And Sports International is who I work for. They're the same thing. And I had parents coming up to me asking me, was this my camp? And I thought, man, that's great. You know, it's not my camp. So I sat down and I said, you know what, I'm thinking about bringing it home.
Yeah.
But it also started, too, this sort of works in together. Tater Benson, I was coaching with him at Lower Botetourt. And Tater started, his way of coaching was every spring we would get in the van and we would travel to Alabama, big schools, Virginia Tech, you name it, we would go.
Right.
You know, Penn State, we'd go and we'd go to them football clinics, and that's one thing. And I was learning from the best. I mean, I was learning some good stuff. I was hooking up with some great college football coaches, some pro guys, and strength coaches. That's sort of how the TF40 developed, you know, with the football camp, because I was learning so much and I was so passionate for it.
Right.
I love to see kids get better.
And you got to share it with somebody.
And I wanted to bring it home.
That's right. That's
Why not
awesome.
bring it home? So,
That's awesome.
You know, now I was in Charlotte, big cities, you know, working the camps.
Sure.
You're not going to have the numbers.
Right.
But I thought, you know, if it fades, if it don't go, it don't go. But camps helped me out when I was growing up. My mother used to send me to camps. You know, she'd save up as much as she could to send me to camps, and it helped me so much.
Yeah.
You know, it helped me develop into a better football player. And we just worked on fundamentals at these camps. See, that's sort of gone.
It's gone away.
It's gone away.
Right, because
know?
we see the flash. They see what's on TV. And they're seeing guys that went through the fundamentals, but they're seeing those guys as almost finished products.
Yeah.
So it's important that we bring that back together. You tie that in and say, hey, you know what? It starts here. Then you can work to get there, be the OBJ or to be the Cooper Kupp out there, or to be the Aaron Donald. As we say, we gotta have love for my big guys too up front, right? So that is awesome, man. Just take me back. You touched on how it started. What has kept you going for over a decade of having this camp? Because it's something that a lot of folks out there, they still look forward to each and every year.
Well, I'll tell you what's got me going. Well, knowing that it's working, you know, and watching the kids. I mean, I'm on a high. It's hard work at first, you know, stressful at first.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, at the end of the camp, I'm smiling, I'm happy. I've got that, they call it a runner's high. You know, I call it a football high or a coach's high, whatever you want to call it. But to see these kids get better. I mean, I've seen kids that are very, they're passive aggressive. Am I saying it right? You know, where they're not very, they're not sure of themselves.
Absolutely.
By the end of the camp, they are, you know, they're getting more aggressive. They're, you know, they're getting more confidence.
Yeah.
And now these kids are getting D1 scholarships. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'm sure that brings you delight to see a kid 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Hey, they came through the camp one summer, you know, and now look at them. That is,
yeah. I got them
awesome.
in college now, but you know, and I'm gonna be honest with you. At one point, I was about ready to give up on it, and my youngest son, my oldest son went through it too, but my youngest son was involved in the camp. This was his 7th grade year. And I just said, you know, I ain't going to do it this year. I don't see any kids getting any better, you know. I mean, I saw them getting better at the camp, but I didn't see them getting better when I'd go watch them play.
Sure, taking it to the fall with them.
So
yeah,
we did this. We turned some stuff around his 7th grade year. And he went out there his 7th grade year and did everything that we did in camp. And he had just an awesome year.
Right.
And I said to myself, we got to keep it going, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, the bottom line is, you know, these camps these camps are very expensive. The ones I used to work at.
Sure.
So
Sure.
We get sponsors to help out with kids that can come in and, you know, they might not have the funds to head to Virginia Tech or Clemson or wherever it may be, you know, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
So we try to help with sponsorships for kids in this area to come in and participate in the program. And, you know, I went to Coach Lovelace back in January, and I said, hey, you know, because I've been everywhere. I put this camp on about everywhere.
Right.
And I told him, I said, hey, what about, you know, let's do it here for the city kids and bring others on board. And he said he was open arms, man. He's
absolutely. And it's a huge deal, like you mentioned. Location means everything to a lot of people because I mean, we look at gas prices now too. I mean, that's huge, you know. So I'm sure that'll be much appreciated. Tell me a little bit about your high school coaching journey here in the area, the past few seasons, and what got you here to William Fleming just a few years ago.
Well, Fleming is, to answer your first question, it's home to me. This is where I graduated. This is where I played.
Colonel Pride.
Yes.
That's right.
And it does, that's right. And it does mean something to you. You know, I always had coaches say, man, you know, it's nothing like going back to your own home school.
Absolutely.
And he's right.
Yeah.
But what's really good is the staff here, the kids, the coaches here. All the coaches are great, man. It's just good people, you know.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself with good people, you're happy, you have fun, and good things will happen.
Absolutely.
And so I was at Lower Botetourt for years. Under 3 coaches. I worked under Coach Carter, Coach Benson, and Coach Harless.
Right.
And then I left there, and I was up in New River Valley working with Jack Turner at Auburn.
Nice.
Then went to Eastmont, worked there as a coach. Then I got my head coaching job at Eastmont. I could be leaving out some schools. I've been everywhere. It's been so
we had a Craig County stint in there.
Years. Well, it came down. My son, it was his last year. And I was able to do it the year before because of COVID, because we was in the spring. And we didn't have a team. We couldn't develop a team because of the students. We didn't have enough to form a team at Craig, so I was able to watch him. But his senior year, it was either me to keep coaching and I would miss all of his games, or, you know, give up football. And I wasn't ready to give up football yet. So
that's right.
I called Coach Lovelace, which I'm friends with. I said, hey, man, you got anything on the JV level? Or I'm not ready to give it up. And he said, absolutely. He said, let's talk. So we talked, and that's what I did last year, and that's what I'll probably be doing this year again. And
that's awesome.
I'm all for it, man, you know. So,
that's awesome. Giving back to the community is so huge, and you've touched so many different communities. What's your central message you try to give your players to take with them even beyond the field? Because as you mentioned, you're getting into minute details when they come through the camp. What's one overarching thing you try to say, hey, take this nugget with you everywhere you go?
It's about character, you know. I tell them all day long, you know, if you've got good grades, if you don't have good character, you know, you've got to have both of them, but you got to work hard.
It's true.
Work with what, you know, you got to work hard to get what you're going to get out there in this world.
Yeah.
And basically, really, I tell them, be good people in this world. Be good people. Don't be somebody that you don't be fake. Don't be out here telling people you've done this and done that and you haven't.
Right.
Be real.
Yeah.
Don't be fake, and be happy. Live a happy life. And being yourself and being good to others. It's not what I can do for myself, it's what you can do for others. And that's what you want to do, and that's what makes me happy. So I'm sort of glad I am that way. I want to help people, as much as I can.
Right.
And so that's sort of what the way I feel, the way I play, the way I play life is sort of how I want them to play it. Be happy. When you show up at a job, be happy. Don't be, a grump. Don't,
Right.
It starts the day off.
Absolutely.
The day off right.
Absolutely.
And be trustworthy. So it's the little things, like the little things we teach at camp. We teach them the correct steps. Again, it goes back to, it all works hand in hand, just like the weight room. When the TF40. And that I always feel like there's always a reason behind everything.
Sure.
Say, Bill Gillespie started me on the TF40, the weight program.
Wow.
So I was with Coach Benson. We was up at Florida State. And I was going to Florida State, Alabama, Clemson, you name it. I was going there, talking to these strength coaches, where everybody kept telling me, you need to go to Liberty. You need to go to Liberty. You need to talk to this strength coach. He's amazing. I'm thinking, at the time, I hate to say it, but I just didn't really, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Why would I go to Liberty? I just didn't respect the program like I did Alabama and, Florida State, where I was just trying to go to the top D1 schools. And,
Sure.
So that's all I kept hearing about. So I was having some issues. Well, with this Florida State clinic, I had this guy, there was a machine where you pop the dummy, and it would tally up the score on the power. Well, this guy at Florida State kept coming up to me the whole week at camp and just, it was driving me nuts. I thought, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, I said, I want to see. And then I really got to thinking about it. Well, maybe I will get something like that. I said, look into it. So I told him, I said, let me see. I want to see you before I commit to even saying anything, thinking that would get rid of him. He said, well, you'll be able to. So he calls me up. He says, I got 2 in Virginia. So I got 1 at Liberty and I got 1 at a high school in Northern Virginia. I said, all right. He said, well, you can meet the famous Bill Gillespie. I was like, what? So I went down there. I was having problems with my power cleans.
Right.
Went down there, so I was expected to spend 30 minutes. Went down there and spent 3 hours. And we've had a relationship ever since. And when I got out of being a strength coach at Lord Botetourt, he was like, you need to stay in this, because you're passionate and because of what all you know. You need to stay with this and you need to open your own business. So
wow.
So that was that.
Yeah.
Then on top of what I told you about the football camps,
sure.
I was working what's the store? I can't think of his first name. Store that ran the ball, went to Oregon, played for Carolina Panthers. What was his name?
Jonathan
Stewart.
Stewart.
I was working John Stewart's football camp. And
wow.
I kept having parents coming down saying, "Is this your camp?" And just the stuff that I was learning from Alabama, their coaches. I could just bug them to death. And I still do that, but that's how you learn. I always tell my kids, you were asking me, what do I, hang my hat on? What do I try to, well, besides having good character, but I always tell them this, hey, if you want to be the best, learn from the best. And that's sort of what I was sort of going after, and Tater Benson's the one who gave me that out, sort of gave me that, privilege.
We definitely appreciate it, and we appreciate you not keeping all that knowledge, but yet, you spreading it, sharing it with all those kids that we see on Friday nights, whether they're here at Fleming, whether they're, across the area. Like we said, you touched a lot of kids' lives in their football paths thus far, so whether it be for 3 days here, 5 days, or they keep coming back to you. So we greatly appreciate that. Camp this year, June 27th through 29th?
28th and 29th.
Awesome.
10 to 11:30 for the younger boys, and for the middle and high schoolers, it's from 1 to 2:45.
Awesome.
Another thing, too, is I always ask the kids, are you perfect? They say, no, sir. I said, okay, then we can move forward. Because the bottom line is, if you're perfect, because I tell them I'm not perfect.
Right.
I'm going to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to correct them.
Right.
So.
And they got to have that mindset walking in here. They can't come in thinking, well, I'm going to teach somebody else. Or I'm
Exactly. I said, you're not perfect.
Learn to follow before we lead,
you
right?
don't need to be at this camp.
That's right. That's right.
That's one thing that I like to tell them, and that's sort of, that gets them here a little bit,
Sure.
mindset.
Absolutely.
But it's, man, the self-esteem is just something that's really, that I work hard on because I'm very passionate about, but then at the end of the day, it's well worth it, man. The feeling I get watching these kids grow and getting that stuff. Like I said, beginners. I've had kids that are scared to put their fingers down on the ground.
Sure.
And by the end of the camp, they're putting their fingers on the ground, not only doing that, but they're coming off the ball aggressive. So we know that at that point we've reached this kid.
Yeah.
As long as they get better at one thing, like I said, 3 days, you're not going to get good at coming out here. I mean, it's still good. You're going to get good at agilities. You're going to get good at throwing. But if you get good at some of the main things, and the main things are the helmet and shoulder pads, you play in football gear.
Yeah.
If when August comes and you put that gear on, it's going to be, it's not going to be new to you.
Right,
and you're going to have that one step, especially these beginners, they're not going to have those butterflies like you're still going to have butterflies, but you're not going to have them near as much.
That's right. That's right. You'll be ready. You're ready for the challenge.
Confidence, man.
That's it.
And self-esteem, that's big in this. In every
you got to have it. You got to have it every time you come on out. And I'm sure those kids, they'll have it next week when they step on the field here at William Fleming High School. Coach Harrison, we appreciate your time. Always a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah.